I love our Sunday get-togethers, and I got to tell you, when we have somebody as terrific as my friend Jeff East, you know you're in for some good stories. So I want you to sit back and listen to Jeff tell us. It's about being the father of the groom.
There has been much written and many movies made about weddings. Father of the Bride is probably the movie that comes to mind, whether it's the Spencer Tracy and Liz Taylor 1950s version, or the more recent 1991 film starring Steve Martin and Diane Keaton. But one thing can be assured, it's always about the bride and her father. The moment that my wife and I had been anticipating for 10 months was here. The wedding that seemed so far off was now in motion. My son can't be getting married, I thought. He's not old enough. He just graduated from college. Oh, wait, that was 10 years ago? Has it really been that long? It must have been because my son and I were now standing in the back room of the church in our tuxedos. I searched for words of wisdom, but nothing profound came to mind, so I resorted to straightening his tie. The bride was busy putting on her finishing touches as her father anxiously paced in the vestibule, waiting for their big entrance. My son and I would suddenly appear at the front of the church as though we had just crawled under the fence at Wrigley Field for a lack of a ticket. To me, this is one of the great mysteries of life. The bride spends countless hours choosing just the right flowers, finding bridesmaid dresses that will accentuate her appearance, and questing that perfect wedding dress that will enhance her beauty and verify her purity, which the groom has already accepted as fact. A dress that's worn only once, then deposited into a garment bag and put into the attic, or vacuum packed in a sealed container that will preserve it until the next Ming dynasty. The groom rents a tuxedo and must get it back the next day to keep from paying a penalty. One by one, the bridesmaids made their way down the aisle, in the bride's designated order, in their already obsolete dresses with matching mauve shoes, to the waiting arm of their tuxedoed companions. The music swelled, the doors at the rear of the church opened. My son's betrothed entered the sanctuary with her father by her side and proceeded slowly down the aisle, while the groom stood there at the altar waiting, truly an omen of things to come. So if the groom is somewhat obscure to the whole wedding ritual, one can only imagine how obscure a part of the father of the groom plays. My participation in my son's wedding, as listed in the program, was father of the groom, musician, and best man. But people always seem to have an abundance of sympathy for the father of the bride, while the father of the groom receives winks and slugs on the shoulder. Having completed the initial fathering some 34 years earlier, and having made my musical contribution before the ceremony, I now stood in the front of the church next to my son, camouflaged by the other 5 groomsmen, awaiting my all-important best man duty of handing the rings to the priest. As the father of the bride 5 years earlier, I went through the agony of giving my little girl away. But a father and son will always be a couple of guys with much in common. No separation anxiety, no giving the groom away, just standing in my place holding on to those rings. The bride's father placed his daughter's arm on my son's and stepped away. A twinge of sadness hit me as I too remembered that moment. It quickly diminished, realizing that my son was on the receiving end. The priest held out a saucer on which I carefully deposited the rings, thus completing my duty and returning to obscurity. My son's face lit up and a smile crossed his lips. A smile I had seen many times before on birthdays and Christmases past. It was a feeling that I had shared with him on many occasions. I remembered his first home run, his one and only touchdown, his graduation from high school, and obtaining a degree from college, which is something I never did. How could I possibly forget his landing his first job and moving 600 miles away to pursue his dreams? He has fulfilled all my dreams for him, and now, by the look on his face, like me, he has a woman that he dearly loves. Fathers are creatures who, on certain occasions, end up in the background of life. But with that comes a chance for reflection. For those of us who have been blessed with at least one daughter and one son, we are granted the opportunity to escort her down the aisle and walk hand in hand with a son who will always be 8 years old, wearing a baseball uniform and a smile. A son is an extension of a father's own hopes and dreams. You see, I never hit a home run or scored a touchdown or even graduated from college, but I was the father of the groom.
This little clinking of the glasses and the cups here, right here on my desk, my water glass, my coffee cup, we're not fooling you a little bit, are we? We know that that was recorded. And I'll tell you why I'm so glad it was recorded. We started Sunday Stories. Actually, I started Mojave Beach Productions, and we were going to be a full-scale production company and dramatize everything. We hadn't been in business very long, and Jeff was my announcer, and then I did hear him tell a story, and I did fall in love with his stories. So we started a series called Jeff's World. And I'm feeling a little tear starting here in my throat now as I tell you about this, because we had no sooner gotten started than COVID hit. And my darling, our buddy, our storyteller, our friend, Jeff, didn't make it through that. So today I was thinking about what I could bring to your table this Sunday that you would enjoy, and I thought about Jeff. I think about Jeff an awful lot. So I went back to our old Mojave Beach files. I closed that down. We lost 4 of our team members over COVID-related things. And I was so brokenhearted, frankly, that I just closed down. And a few months later, I thought, that's not right. These guys had so much hope and so much faith in what we were doing. But now I'm on my own. So I decided it would just be you and me. You're listening and I'm telling you stories. And I'm trying to think of what I would do if you were my guest at my dinner table. And it came to me, you know what, we'll do our Sunday stories. But when we can bring somebody in like Jeff, whose work we did record, and have him tell you these stories, let's just play like he's a guest at our table today. I just love that man for everything he stood for his integrity, for his good spirits, for his wonderful story. I never heard him say anything bad about a single person. So God bless, and I'm going to see you next time at the Sunday table. And who knows who'll be there then.